Okay, so good morning, guys. Today we'll start with next chapter, and we've already completed two units, Unit 1 and Unit 2. Last chapter we covered was legal structure and documents for different types of customers. Today we'll cover the types of credit facilities offered to SME borrowers, and it has just one chapter, one lesson, that is facilities based on classification. So without wasting our time, let us go and start the thing. So it is here like lesson 7 based on facilities based on classification. So there are 6 topics again which we have to study. You all know topic 2 is very important to read. Rest of them are supporting topics. So let us start with topic 1 first. So different businesses have different needs. Manufacturers usually have more plants and machinery than say a service business. Yeah, that is true because they have to manufacture, so they have more plant and machinery. Service industry mainly it provides services, so it doesn't have to manufacture anything. That's why they don't have much of plant and machinery. This is not to say, however, that service enterprise won't need equipment or other assets to support their business. Such needs will also change over time. Initially, a manufacturer will need a long-term credit facility to invest in plant and machinery. As they grow, they may then need short-term financing for inventory receivables. So, yes, service industry requires some equipments, and manufacturing sector requires a lot of plant and machinery, right? Based on these different and changing borrowing needs, banks offer different types of products. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify the various structural elements of commercial corporate credit facilities, describe various credit products offered by banks in India to SME clients, describe the main features of fund-based and non-fund-based credit facilities. This we have already covered in our credit analysis and banking advances classes. So if you have any doubt here, you can go there and you can look at my recordings. You will find it there. Then explain how to match the right credit facility for the client's need, risk profile, and purpose of usage. So this is there. Now topic 2 is what you need to know. So let us move to topic 2. So here comes topic 2. Now, as a lender, you should verify your client's borrowing needs. So it is the first step of credit analysis, that you have to analyze clients' borrowing needs, what they need actually, what is their requirement. See, especially in MSME, what happens is your customer, even he doesn't know what he needs. He doesn't know about your products. He doesn't know about your banking products. So you will have to guide him what kind of product he need, and you will have to ask him certain questions on the basis of which you can decide what kind of product he requires, and be able to trace their credit request to a particular business need. The structural feature of the credit facility must then match the characteristics of that underlying business need. So you don't have to offer whatever he's asking. You have to offer what he needs, right? So he may say like, I want term loan for 5 years to buy raw material, right? Because he's unknown about your credit facility or banking, right? But you have to guide him like, okay, no, for your credit facility, for your inventories and receivables, you just need cash credit. You don't need term loan, because in term loan you will have to pay principal and interest in periodical manner. But in cash credit facility, you can just withdraw whatever you need and you can deposit it back, and you'll have to just pay the interest over a period of time. So a prospective SME entrepreneur may approach your bank with a predetermined request in mind. For example, they may request a term loan. As a part of your due diligence and credit appraisal, you need to determine whether the request is appropriate or whether a different structure or loan feature are more suitable based on the credit purpose and risk profile. So as I told you, you have to decide, you have to determine what is his requirement, what credit need he has. So essentially the credit facilities offered can be classified as follows. So first is physical outflow of funds. So it is called as fund-based credit because there is actual flow of funds. So there is physical flow of fund from the bank. Then non-fund based. So the facility does not entail the physical outflow of funds. So in non-fund based facilities, there is no movement of fund like bank guarantee and letter of credit. There is no actual movement of fund. They are just documentary credits. Now fund based involves disbursement of funds by the lender but non-fund based, no immediate flow of fund from the bank to the borrower. Immediate means in case if the borrower defaults, then only there will be outflow of funds. Otherwise, it is not, right? So we have to be careful here. What is the requirement, right? So okay. Now examples of fund-based credit are cash credit, term loan, packaging credit, and the like, right? And examples of non-fund based credit are letter of credit and bank guarantee, right? So let me, okay, so letter of credit and bank guarantee. Then the bank earns interest income as well as processing fees in case of fund based credit. But in non-fund based credit, only a commission or fee is involved. There is no interest income because there is no outflow of funds initially. Then on the basis of collateral or security, there are secured credit facilities. Secured facilities are where partially or fully secured by collateral. So they have collateral security with them. Unsecured facilities means no collateral. Collateral means secondary security, right? So if they are offering some security to you, then that is secured facility, and if they are not, then it is unsecured facility. So secured facilities buy an underlying asset. Right? So secured by an underlying asset or assets financed with the loan proceeds. So secured facilities are secured. They have some asset. So if in case like the borrower defaults, then you can sell that asset and you can get back your money. In case of unsecured facilities, there are no underlying security except the personal liability of the borrower. So unless in unsecured credit, it is like fully unsecured. There is no asset involved in it, like personal loan you have, right? So there you have, there you don't offer any security. An example of security include factory building. It can be factory building, a vehicle, or a stock or inventory. Now, secured by way, it can be by way of hypothecation. Hypothecation is done when security and or stock, when a stock or inventory that is kept as security, that is hypothecation. Mortgage, you already know what is mortgage. Mortgage is of immovable property, so land and building. And pledge. Pledge means when you deliver goods for the for making that as security, for taking that as security, that is pledge. So goods can be kept as pledge, like gold, right? So gold is pledged. Now examples include personal loans based on salary income, here unsecured business income, and track record. So here you are believing your client and you are not taking any security, and on the basis of his salary, his business income, and track record, you are offering him this loan. Unsecured by protected by way of personal liability. So they are only protected by personal liability and salary income and business returns, right? Now tenure of credit facility. So on the basis of tenure of credit facilities, it can be divided into three parts: short term, medium term, and long term. We have already gone through this. Short term is up to 3 years, medium term is 3 years to 7 years, and long term is greater than 7 years. So this is about the facilities. So there are three on the basis of three different things we can like divide these securities. We can classify the credit facilities, that is physical outflow of funds, then collateral, and tenure of credit facility. So on the basis of physical outflow fund, it is fund based and non-fund based. Collateral, it is secured and unsecured, and tenure, it is short term, medium term, and long term. So just remember this term: up to 3 years it is short term, from 3 years to 7 years it is medium term, and greater than 7 years is long term, right? So these are various types of fund-based credit. We have overdraft, OD, cash credit, limit of finance, pre-shipment credit, post-shipment credit, working capital term loan, bill purchase and discount, right? Now we have packaging credit facilities, right? So we have done all these things in credit analysis and banking advances. All these facilities we have covered, right? Overdraft, right? So in overdraft, it is like an overdraft is a credit facility which with an approved limit which is linked to the company's business account. So there will be some excess money which you can use, right? On like for example, your current account has $100, right? Your current account has $100 in it, and you've been given overdraft of $200. So you can withdraw up to $300 from your current account. It can go into negative. That is overdraft. When the account balance is nil, the company can withdraw the account up to the amount of approved limit. Legally, an overdraft is a demand assistance given by the bank for the short period of time. At the end of the approved time period, the company is required to repay the amount. Interest is payable on the actual amount drawn. So even if you have limit of $200 and if you use only $100, then you will pay interest only on $100. You will not pay on $200, right? So it is interest is not charged on the approved limit. It is charged on the limit used. Now then, overdraft can be unsecured or secured with a bank deposit, units of UTI. UTI means units of UTI means mutual funds they are talking about. The national savings certificate, fully paid shares and the like. It is running account where withdrawals as well as deposits are permitted. So it is running account. Day-to-day business activities, credits and debits are done there. Now credit, cash credit. Cash credit function is in much the same way as overdraft, but it is not linked to the company's bank account. So you will have different account now. There will be current account and there will be OD account, CC account. Under this facility, the bank specifies a predetermined limit and the borrower can withdraw funds from the bank up to that sanctioned credit limit. Facilities are sanctioned based on an assessment of the borrower's maximum working capital requirement less a margin that a company is expected to finance from its own fund. We have already discussed this about the NWC, net working capital. It is the part of working capital which is financed by from the shareholders fund, right? A credit facility, a cash credit facility is useful to those companies where cash payments such as wages, transportation and supplies are to be made and sales receivables are not immediately realized. So whenever you have debtors, you can finance those debtors by using cash credit limit. Now borrowers are permitted to draw down the entire credit in the lump sum, but only periodically to the extent needed. Repayment can be made whenever desired during the period. This facility is typically advanced against the security of inventory, stock of raw material, semi-finished and finished goods and the debtors. So normally the goods and the debtors are kept as security for cash credit limit. Now limit of finance, so limit based, depending on business volume, the drawing power is fixed. We have already discussed the drawing power method of working capital. Drawing power method of working capital is based on your for example, you've been sanctioned a cash credit limit of 200 200 crore. But on the basis of your inventory and debtors, you have only a requirement of only 100 CR. So you can withdraw only up to 100 CR, not up to 200 CR. Though the limit sanctioned is 200 CR, right? So depending on the business volume, the borrowing power is fixed and the borrower is permitted to operate the account, debit or credit, up to a sanctioned limit. In the case of CC, since it is extended against the stock and book debt, the drawing power is fixed based on the holding of stock and book debts. So on the basis of stocks and book debts, normally what they do is 75% of your stock and 50% of your book debt they will keep as plus 50% of your book debts that they will keep as your drawing power. Now pre-shipment credit, you all need to know what is this. It is also called as packaging credit. Whenever any exporter approaches any a bank for the facility, they will offer him pre-shipment facility, right, for making the good, for the export and for packaging, for sending it, right. So they will use packaging credit, the pre-shipment credit. This facility is extended to an exporter for the procurement of raw material and manufacturing the product as per the export order, letter of credit received by our customer. The facility is extended to meet expenses up to the time goods are shipped, right? So again it is there. Now post shipment credit. This facility is extended after goods are shipped. So pre-shipment credit is before the goods are shipped. Post shipment credits are after the goods are shipped, to meet expenses until the export proceeds are realized. So even when the goods are sent by the exporter, he may there may be a gap of time, like from the time when the export has been done, and from the time and to the time when the money is realized. So that gap is filled by this post shipment credit. Once the goods are loaded for shipment, documents such as bill of lading, shipper's bill of lading means it is shipping, right? So it is the bill related to shipping, whatever charges you have, so that bill you have to attach, right? That acts as a document for the importer, right? So you have, what you will do is, for example, you are an exporter, so you will export the good, you will have bill of lading, and you will send a copy of that bill of lading to the exporter, to the importer. An importer in his country, he can take that bill of lading, go there and get his goods. The bank extends finance pending upon the receipt of payment from the overseas buyers. Now, working capital term loan. Working capital term loans are availed when a borrower requires additional working capital limit in excess of sanctioned credit limit. So, for example, the borrower, your borrower, he has some special orders, right? Normally, his business is somewhere near 100 crores, but he has got a special order of 50 crore. Now, his drawing power won't allow him to withdraw more than whatever he normally does, but because he has got a special order, he can get some term loan for a short period of time, that is called as working capital term loan. So this facility is created to cover the shortfall of the net working capital. It is repayable in half yearly installments spread over a period of time not exceeding 5 years. So working capital term loan cannot be extended beyond 5 years. This arrangement is presently applicable to the borrowers having working capital requirement of rupees 10 crore or above. Borrowers pay a higher rate of interest than on the regular working capital facility. So for example, regular credit facility has 12% rate of interest. So in working capital term loan, they will be charged 12% plus 1%. So it will be 13% or 14% or whatever it is. Now bill purchase and document. We have discussed this. When finished goods are sold to various buyers, sometimes buyers require time to make payments. In such cases, the suppliers would draw a bill against the receivables and seek an immediate credit facility to meet their business expenses. So what happens? For example, this is exporter, this is importer. Now exporter exports the goods, but importer needs time for the payment. So what they will say, like, okay, I need time. So what they will do is they will make a bill. They will get it signed from the exporter, the importer, and they will submit it to his bank. And bank will discount that bill and give him that money beforehand, like and when the due date comes, then bank will collect it from the importer. That is how it works. Of course, bank will charge some commission or some fees. Now, packaging credit. So, definition of packaging credit. A packaging credit is a pre-sale finance extended to the exporter to execute an overseas order. The interest rate is low compared to advances for domestic orders. The company should have an import-export code, IEC code it is called as, issued by Director General of Foreign Trade. So who issues IEC code? Director General of Foreign Trade. We have already covered this in credit analysis and banking advances before entering into export-import business. Now eligibility, available to all types of exporters, subject to condition that they are not on the RBI caution list. RBI caution list is a list which is released by RBI, where if a borrower is in that list, then he is not given any credit facility. Right, so all the defaulters are there in that list, and you have to check whenever you are giving any loan as a credit manager, you have to check that list whether your borrower should not fall in that particular list. And the product is not on the negative list. So product should also not be in negative list. Negative list means the product which cannot be exported. Now documentary evidence. The exporter should possess the confirmed order or an irrevocable LC. So confirmed order should be there, order from the importer, and irrevocable letter of credit dealing with the suppliers to be shipped. So there should be letter of credit also, right? We have already discussed what is letter of credit. Now purpose. Packaging credits are granted for specific purpose such as the purchase, the processing, and manufacture or packaging of goods as defined by RBI. Amount of finance. Banks are free to determine the amount of packaging credit based on the principle of need-based finance. Banks determine the margin depending on the nature of the order, the commodity, etc. The amount of finance should not be more than the domestic value of the goods or the free on board value, whichever is less. Right, so amount of finance cannot be more than the domestic value of the goods or free on board. Right. Period of credit. The maximum period of credit is 180 days. We have already discussed this, that if it is not extended in 180 days, then it is treated as normal sales, not exports. Right, because for exports there is less interest, less interest which is payable. Right, so if it is not recovered in 180 days, then it is treated as normal sales. So however, the bank may extend the period for another 90 days. So banks are allowed to, they can extend up to another 90 days. So 180 plus 90 is 270. But beyond 360 days, the finance will not be eligible to qualify for concessional rate of interest. So they will not be given concessional rate of interest. Now, disbursement of packaging credit. The bank may release the packaging credit in one lump sum or in stages depending upon the requirement. Monitoring and repayment. Banks must keep a separate account in respect of each packaging credit. A running account is available. Strict monitoring of the use of funds is necessary to ensure that the lower concession rate, interest rate is not misused. Right, so you have to be very careful when you are giving packaging credit, because people may come with normal export and they may normal sales and they may show that as an export. Now, interest. The concessional rate of interest is charged as per RBI guideline. Concessional rate of interest is applicable only if the repayment is made within the time frame as per the terms of the contract. The maximum period for which the concessional rate of interest is available is 360 days. After 360 days, no concessional rate of interest is there. Now, cover. So, packaging credit, P-Sales Finance are covered under the Export Credit Guarantee Corporation of India guarantee. We have already covered ECGC. ECGC guarantee scheme, where exports, if any packaging credit is offered, then that is guaranteed by ECGC. The ECGC provides credit risk insurance and related services for exports, both to the exporter and to the bank. Right, so this is there. Now, so we've covered this. We covered most of it already in our Kaba classes. Right, so if anyone has gone through those classes, then definitely he will be able to connect with these things. So here we have fund-based facilities. Various credit facilities have different structures and attributes. So definition: a term loan is normally a medium and long-term facility. The basic difference between term loan and other types of loan is, term loan is always has some monthly payment of interest and principal amount, right? And cash credit doesn't have that. It is like the overdraft, right? So what you have to do is you have to only pay the interest, and you can pay the amount used anytime you want, and you will be charged only for the amount you use. The type of loan used is for acquisition of assets, expansion, diversification, and modernization. Security: the term loan are secured loans. Assets required through term loans such as are primary securities. For example, you are getting a term loan from the bank for buying an equipment, then that equipment will be primary security, and other asset of the company serve as collateral. So collateral is secondary security. So if in case on top of that particular machinery, the company is also offering a building as security, that is collateral, because that is secondary security. The term of the loan is classified as short term for the year up to 3 years, medium term up to 3 to 7 years, and long term from 7 years and above. Repayment: repayable as per cash flow. This could be equal monthly installments, equated monthly EMIs, and quarterly installments, or half yearly installments, or lump sum at the end of the term, which is also called as bullet payment. So you may also take it like a lump sum. Okay, so that will be called as bullet payment. Margin: the bank typically finances 75% of the cost of underlying asset. We have already studied this 75%. Why 75%? That also we have done. The business finances remaining 25%. So 25% is the margin money, right? Although this may vary depending on the risk assessment. So release: payment may be made directly to the supplier and receipted. This ensures the funds are released for the specific use of the loan as required. So payment is normally done to the supplier or the person, like for example, the person from, for example, the borrower takes loan for buying an equipment. So the bank will directly fund it to the, directly give it to the supplier of the equipment, right? Now interest pricing shall depend upon the rating of the SME borrower. The interest is generally linked to marginal cost of fund based lending rate, MCLR. MCLR will be discussed later in this chapter. So there the interest rate is on the basis of the SME, the rating, credit rating, and the marginal cost of fund, MCLR, right? So these are the things. So you already know what are long term, short term, right? We have covered this. Now here we go. So it is also very important part, non-fund based facilities, right? Although we have already covered a lot of it, right? We have already covered this in credit analysis and banking advances. So people who have attended those classes regularly, diligently, they won't face any issues. Now non-fund based facilities, do not involve an immediate outlay of funds. The banks serve as a guarantor to the borrower to procure raw materials. The bank's obligation is released only when the borrower fails to meet their obligation payment. So if borrower fails, then only the bank has to pay, otherwise they just act as a guarantor. These facilities are good source of revenue for the bank as they do not involve any outflow of fund but generate income by way of commission or processing fees. So normally borrowers, no, they don't default because bank doesn't lend it to everyone, doesn't give non-fund based facilities to everyone. It is only the good borrowers or like borrowers with good credit standing, they are given letter of credit. So they are normally that doesn't liquidate, and the biggest advantage of non-fund based facility is it generates commission and processing fees without any outflow of fund. Now credit risk is comparatively low because there is no outflow of funds, so there is less credit facility. Now various types of non-fund based facilities. So first is letter of credit. So when the SME wishes to purchase raw material or machinery from a seller, either domestic or foreign, the seller generally demands an assurance of payment. In such a scenario, the bank will extend facility called as letter of credit, which is non-fund based facility guaranteeing payment to the seller, subject to fulfillment of terms of LC. Using this facility, SME can purchase goods and without advance payment of funds. This facility does not block funds. So if in case I am a person who wants to get a machinery, want to buy a machinery, but I don't want to pay in advance, right? But seller is not ready to give it to me. So I can go to bank and ask for letter of credit, and letter of credit will be given to me, and the seller is also comfortable because the bank has given LC now. So he's secured on his part. Bank guarantee. Customers undertake various contract work for different government departments. To ensure prompt and proper execution of work, government department may insist on performance guarantee issued by the bank. Banks issue both performance and financial guarantees on behalf of the customer after due evaluation of the credit worthiness and capacity of the customer to perform the work. If customer fails to perform the work as per the contract, they will be in default and the guarantee will be invoked. This will result in the bank making the payment. So in case we have already discussed about the performance guarantee and financial guarantee. So if in case a customer wants some government contract, he may approach the bank, and sometimes government may ask for bank guarantee because they want to make sure that this person doesn't default in the future. So they will approach the bank and they will say like, please give us the bank guarantee. We are your customer and we have been with you for long, so give us the guarantee so that we can get the contract. And on the basis of credit worthiness and capacity of the customer, the bank gives the bank guarantee. So if in case the customer defaults, then the bank will pay to the government for the loss made. Now different types of bank guarantees, this also we have covered. Bid bond guarantee. It is used to ensure that the companies that bid for the project as a part of tender process accept or execute the awarded contract. So it is for the bidding process, right? That is why it is called as bid bond guarantee. Performance bond guarantee, payment to the party in the event of non-performance of duties. So for example, bank may say like we take the performance, we give the performance guarantee on behalf of our customer. So if the customer defaults on performance of any particular duty, then the bank will pay. Then advance payment guarantee. Advance payment guarantee acts as a collateral for reimbursing the advance payment from the buyer if the seller does not supply the goods as per the specification in the underlying contract. So if there is if the collateral if the seller is not able to perform is not able to provide the goods on as per the specifications in the underlying contract, then that is called as an advance payment guarantee. Then advance payment guarantee can be invoked. A financial guarantee is an irrevocable indemnity ensuring the counterparties that a financial obligation of another party will be met. So if any financial obligation is there, they are related to bank's customer, then that will be fulfilled. That is what bank says in its bank guarantee, right? So any financial guarantee, so if in case the borrower defaults, then the bank will pay that particular part of finances. Deferred payment guarantee. When a supplier of machinery agrees to sell the machinery on the deferred terms or installment payments, right? So for example, the seller says like, okay, you take this equipment and pay me in installment. That is deferred payment guarantee. Our customers required to produce a bank guarantee to ensure the payment installments. So they have to produce a bank guarantee saying that, okay, I'll be able to pay these installments. The bank assesses the proposal as if it is a term loan requiring a margin or down payment, right? So they will assess the bank, they will take this proposal as term loan because it is over a period of time he has to pay certain EMIs, right? So in the event of the customer default on the installment, the bank must pay the installment amount. Hence this type of guarantee is called as deferred payment guarantee. So in the event of customer default, the bank must pay the installment amount to the seller, right? That is why it is deferred payment guarantee. Now this is quite small, let me maximize it. Now this is difference between letter of credit and bank guarantee. So letter of credit is an undertaking given by a bank either at the request of the borrower or on its own to the seller, provided the seller supplies the goods and submits the documents specifically required by the terms of the letter of credit. But a bank guarantee is a promise from the bank and other lending institution that if the particular borrower defaults on the payment or performance, the bank will indemnify or cover the loss. Right? So this is an undertaking and this is a promise, right? Then commercial parties, here you have applicant, the buyer of the good, beneficiary, the seller of the good, issuing bank, the bank who opens the letter of credit on behalf of the borrower, advising bank and confirming bank. We have already covered this. Advising bank, the bank who authenticate the letter of credit issued by the for the beneficiary. Confirming bank, the bank who adds confirmation to the undertaking to pay of the undertaking to pay. Nominated bank, a bank authorized in the letter of credit to pay or issue a deferred payment for the beneficiary. Here you have bank guarantees pay performance of payment, beneficiary in whose favor the guarantee is given, and applicant the person who seeks bank guarantee. Types of credit or guarantee. There are various types of letter of credit. These include revocable. Revocable means if in case the customer defaults and bank has to pay, then bank can collect the the default payment from the customer. That is revocable letter of credit. An irrevocable letter of credit, you cannot go there. Confirmed and unconfirmed. When there is a confirming bank which confirms the letter of credit, that is called as confirmed letter of credit. Unconfirmed when there is no confirming bank. Red clause, green clause. We have already covered what is red clause, green clause, and standby letter of credit. Right. So there are some clauses which are mentioned. Right, and traditionally it was in the form of red color. That is why it is called as red clause LC. Right. Then types of guarantee include financial performance, advance payment, bid bond guarantee, retention money guarantee, deferred payment guarantee. We have already covered these things. Right. Now, when our document are in compliance with the LC terms, payment shall be made by LC issuing bank even if the applicant does not pay, right? So, if it is in conformance with if the documents are submitted by the beneficiary, then it is to be paid, whether the customer of the bank has paid or not, because they have given LC. So initially, since there is no outlay of fund and LC is treated as non-fund based facility, though it is non-fund based, LC can become fund based when there is devolvement. When the guarantee is invoked by the bank by the beneficiary through a claim letter, the bank is liable to make good the funds. However, there is only contingent liability for the bank since there is no outlay of the fund unless the guarantee is invoked. This facility is treated as non-fund based. Though it is non-fund based, the guarantee can become fund based on default or non-performance. So this will come only on devolvements, but here it can be on non-performance or default. Credit risk assessment or as if it is fund based facility. So LC and BG both are assessed as if they are fund based facility. They are thought as like, if some while assessing the credit facilities, you have to think like whether if this becomes like if this is liquidated, then what will happen. So you have to identify, you have to assess these credit facilities as fund based facilities. Now security, a counter guarantee is obtained from the applicant along with the collateral and margin. So along with the collateral and margin, a counter guarantee is obtained, which means like if in case the customer defaults, then you can take you can get the money from the customer. The counter guarantee is encashed in an unexpected event, or if the obligor fails to pay performance of the contract and the obligee calls upon the surety to honor the commitment. So in case the bank has to pay back, then bank will move to the customer and recover their money. Counter guarantee is obtained from the applicant along with the collateral and margin. So here also counter guarantee is obtained. Counter guarantee is when the borrower gives the guarantee to the bank that okay, if I default on this payment and you have to pay on my behalf, then I'll pay you back, right? Now, application guidelines. So here application guidelines are mentioned in uniform customs and practices for documentary credit. We have already covered this UCPDC, right? And in this case, bank in guarantee, it is Indian Contract Act 1882 which governs this particular thing, right? So this is there. I hope this is quite clear, and let us move to the next segment. So what you need to know, right? So having understood the various types of credit facilities that are available to SME borrowers, as a credit professional, you should be able to discuss, ask the right questions and match the appropriate credit facility to the borrower's business needs. The following actions will help you do so. So you have to engage in the right conversation and ask the client the right questions to determine their true borrowing needs and the end use of facility or funds. So you have to identify what is the client's need, right? Then identify the specific credit facility that matches the client's need as well as their overall risk profile and the appropriateness of the end use of their business objective. Evaluate whether potential security or collateral can be obtained depending on the type of facility. For example, hypothecation of stock in case of overdraft or cash credit, a mortgage of land building in case of term loan, and adequate security in the terms of cash deposits, collateral, or issuing a letter of credit or bank guarantee. This can help in risk mitigation and capital preservation, right? So these are some of the things. How is this useful? So we have got one case study as we have in each and every chapter. So here Messrs ABC Private Limited is a garment business and they export their product to countries such as USA and UK. They have approached you for financing of their day-to-day operational expenses. The company also imports various raw materials. With your knowledge of credit facilities available to support SMEs, you know you can explore various types of finance support to their operation. To meet their day-to-day expenses, you can offer short-term cash credit, which is classified under fund-based facilities. Since the company also has importing raw material and exporting finished goods, you can also suggest opening a letter of credit for importing raw materials, right? So letter of credit can be one aspect, right? So you are offering cash credit as short-term facility for their day-to-day operation, then letter of credit can be offered to them. A short-term loan in the form of cash credit secured by hypothecation of stocks and goods. Then facilitation or the export of goods by extending pre-shipment credit, packaging credit can also be given to them against export orders. So if they have confirmed export orders, then pre-shipment credit can also be given to them. So this is a case study, right? So we've done this. Let us move to the next segment. This is topic 5. So right, so what is the loan request? What actually customer needs? What are the business true borrowing needs? Do they match the loan request? What credit facility or facilities best meet the true borrowing need? And how does the bank's loan policy relate to the opportunity? So you have to identify, first of all, you have to look at the application form you go through the application form thoroughly just to know what has been asked by the borrower. Then you find out what is the need of the borrower and try to match like what is need of the borrower and the request made, right? And if it is not matching, then suggest to the borrower to make appropriate application, right? And then you can definitely go for whatever your policy, whatever your bank policy says. According to that, what credit facility can you give to the borrower? So this is the thing which you have to do. And last one is your test, which you can attempt on your own. Go through this video again and again. Also go through my credit analysis and banking advances lectures. That will help you a lot in this, right? So thank you, and go through my PPTs as well. They will help you a lot. My credit analysis and banking advances PPT. So thank you for your time.